Good afternoon, my name is Josh from Cyclones Oz, and I've got a detailed storm update for the situation in northeastern New South Wales and through southeastern Queensland. It's a significant one, and we do have some pretty dangerous thunderstorms that are beginning to move up into the Grafton area. And this is a look at our current radar imagery suggesting severe thunderstorm development is finally getting itself going towards the north of Dorrigo, now moving up into the Grafton area. And a couple of potentially dangerous thunderstorms are expected to develop in the next couple of hours or so. We've got a high risk area towards the Grafton area along the coastal strip here, just towards the north of Dorrigo, including Coffs Harbour, then up towards Grafton, Maclean, and then over towards Yamba, and about as far north as Casino and Lismore into the northeast of New South Wales. Potentially dangerous thunderstorms are going to develop in the next hour or so as this Seabreeze line does continue to move north. Now, this morning we've had an abundance of cloud coverage moving in from the west, and that's really throttled and held back our severe thunderstorm potential inland from Kempsey, Port Macquarie, Southwest Rocks, those locations where we expected severe thunderstorms to be developing all throughout the course of this week. We've thought that these storms would be getting themselves going by now in this area, and that was the forecast throughout the course of this week, but they've really struggled because of that high cloud coverage, which just hasn't allowed things to get as warm as what they need it to be, and that has had some pretty major ramifications. Our thunderstorm risk area has shrunk down dramatically, and it is basically locally just around Grafton where we're going to be looking at those severe thunderstorms throughout the course of today. Now, this is a look at dew points, which are finally beginning to come good for these severe thunderstorms on our Axis Convective Forecast model, our high resolution stuff here. Red is good, purple is great, those dark blues, which you can't see on this screen right now because they're not there, are excellent, and they are favourable for severe thunderstorms. And as we get out through the next couple of hours or so, we are going to be talking about these dew points increasing for one or two locations into the northeast of New South Wales, particularly around Urbanville and Lismore, and a couple of strong, potentially dangerous severe thunderstorms are most certainly going to be possible as this Seabreeze line does continue to push further towards the north. Right now it's located around Coffs Harbour. In about an hour or so it's going to be around the Grafton area, or when this video comes out, around the Grafton area, and then by around 5 or 5:30 it's going to be pushing up towards Lismore. Now, storms that should be beginning to upscale by the time they get up towards the Lismore area, which means rainfall does become a predominant threat, and to be honest, rainfall is kind of the major threat throughout the course of today. We're going to be looking at high precipitation storm modes right through this part of New South Wales and the border ranges and scenic rim of Queensland, which will be making these thunderstorms flash flooding prone. So a couple of locations we're really looking out for some significant rainfall accumulations, and you can see that if we flick it over to the rainfall and thunder forecast here, there's a lot of these thunderstorms expected to pack a significant punch on the rainfall side of things. And as we continue to roll this forecast forward, if it does actually continue to want a low to roll forward, you can see we are going to be talking about some relatively significant rainfall accumulations locally where these thunderstorms are going to be at their most intense. And this is especially for the northeast of New South Wales and into parts of the Gold Coast hinterland through southeast Queensland, where rainfall is expected to get quite heavy at times. Now, I'll get to the squall risk in southeast Queensland in just a second, but before I get to that, I would like to touch on the thunderstorm risk in the next couple of hours or so through parts of the Granite Belt and the Darling Downs, the scenic rim and the border ranges. Thunderstorms are possible through here throughout the course of this afternoon and into early this evening, but we have a very strong capping, which is strong inversion. Basically, what that means is thunderstorms are unlikely to develop, and unless it gets stupidly hot, which is about 37 or 38 degrees, which it's not going to get to today, thunderstorms are just not going to develop into the scenic rim, the Granite Belt, or the Darling Downs this afternoon. It's a factor on a few forecasts, but again, considering this cloud coverage and the fact that it is just not getting that warm through parts of southeastern Queensland this afternoon, I mean, our temperature forecast was good, but it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. And at this point in time, thunderstorms are just not expected to develop around the scenic rim or through the border ranges, not until we see this upscaled squall line coming through. And that's an important factor to understand here, is that this outbreak is kind of moving in two parts. We've got our initial isolated supercell thunderstorm risk, which still lies around the Grafton and the Lismore area, but still in a more isolated predicament as to what we were forecasting, and not just early today, but also throughout the course of this week, before these thunderstorms upscale dramatically later this afternoon and this evening, and we see a squall line march across southeastern Queensland, bringing those damaging wind gusts, heavy rainfall, and lots of lightning. Let's talk about that squall line right now. So upscaled versions of these thunderstorms are going to roll into southeastern Queensland after about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. The strongest storms are expected through the border ranges and through the Gold Coast hinterland, and we could be talking about an isolated severe thunderstorm risk through parts of the border ranges and the Gold Coast hinterland area in this area here, around the Bow Desert, Boonah, Rathdowney, and then around Mount Tamborine as well. Gold Coast itself is probably going to dodge the worst of it, and the severe thunderstorms are not expected through the Gold Coast area. Nerang is most likely to see severe thunderstorms if they develop around the Gold Coast, but at this point in time, I wouldn't really be betting the farm on anything too strong developing in the immediate southeastern corner of Queensland around Coolangatta or the Gold Coast. Definitely nothing of the dangerous variety variety, which is large hailstones and destructive wind gusts. So I wouldn't really be worried about that at this point in time. Thunderstorms are going to continue to move north, and because this squall line is going to be coming through quite late at tonight and it's covered a lot of ground already, they are going to be quite weak by the time they get into the Brisbane, the Ipswich and the Logan City area. So thunderstorms expected to move through those locations between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock tonight, but they're likely to be of this significantly weaker variety by the time they do so. We may see one or two stronger thunderstorms out around the Toowoomba and the Gatton area, moving up towards Crow's Nest and inland as far as Cecil Plains and Dalby. But again, I wouldn't really be expecting dangerous or severe thunderstorms developing out here either. All in all, a pretty weak, almost fizzer type outbreak, especially compared to where the forecast was earlier today. But still, nonetheless, strong thunderstorms are most certainly expected to occur through southeast Queensland. They're just going to be of the slightly more isolated variety compared to what we were looking at over the last couple of days. Now, our major forecast model here, the East Move, is calling for our strongest thunderstorms to be a little bit further inland from Brisbane, kind of moving along a corridor between these parallel lines here, which includes Ipswich, but especially out towards Gatton, Lowood, and then Toowoomba and the Wivenhoe outlook. Strong thunderstorms that should be moving through along this arrowed line here. We'll also see a couple of strong thunderstorms around the Gold Coast hinterland and the scenic rim, as we've already hammered home, but for the most part, I do believe Brisbane is going to dodge the severe stuff, and if severe thunderstorms do move through the Brisbane area, they are going to be quite isolated in nature. I don't expect anything too crazy to go down around Brisbane later tonight. Now, these thunderstorms are going to weaken off pretty quickly. You can see by midnight when this forecast snapshot is, they're already very much on the wind down, and by the time they get up to the Sunshine Coast as well, by extension including Coolah, Maroochydore, and then up towards Noosa especially, they are going to be dramatically weaker and very much of the nothing burger variety. We're not really going to be talking about much onto the Sunshine Coast later tonight and into the early hours of tomorrow morning. And these thunderstorms should be completely done and dusted by a rather late 3 or 4 a.m. Definitely going to be lasting a while, that's for sure, these thunderstorms, but by the time the sun is rising tomorrow, clearer conditions should be beginning to set in through southeastern Queensland. And just to recap on this, if we pull this forecast back to the current, you can see these thunderstorms do get initially quite strong into the northeast of New South Wales and into the Gold Coast hinterland and parts of the scenic rim. For the Gold Coast area, though, it is still a bit of a wild card. I do still think a strong thunderstorm or two will move through the Gold Coast, but of the severe variety is still rather questionable at this point in time. And again, nothing of the very dangerous variety through the Gold Coast. And as we continue to roll this forecast forward, you can see they do weaken off by the time they get up towards Brisbane, and they're very much of the non-severe variety into the northern suburbs of Brisbane, including Strathpine and Caboolture, and almost of the non-thunderstorm variety, of a non-concern variety by the time they move into the Glasshouse Mountains and the southern parts of the Sunshine Coast. And as we get further up the Sunshine Coast towards Noosa, it's doubtful as to whether or not they'll actually see a thunderstorm later today. Now, storm chasers and anyone interested in lightning is going to love this picture here. Lots and lots of lightning is expected, particularly through the northeast of New South Wales and around the Gold Coast area. Those in the Gold Coast hinterland are going to get a significant light show later tonight, particularly if you look down towards the south and the southwest. Good lightning activity is also expected further inland. We'll see some decent lightning around the Toowoomba and the Warwick area, and potentially one or two of these lightning storms could stray out towards the Ipswich area as well. Definitely looking at some good lightning out in those locations too. And as we continue to roll this forward, Brisbane will also likely get their fair share of lightning as we get out to about 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. There could be some good bulks in and around the Brisbane area, and pretty much everywhere in Brisbane is expecting a half-decent display of lightning, getting better and better the further out towards the west and the further south you go. The northern suburbs are likely to be those that miss out or get the most lackluster display of lightning, if that makes sense. Now, right now, if we have a look at our current satellite and radar picture, there's still a lot of this cloud coverage that's pushing through, and this cloud coverage has held things back a little bit in towards central Queensland. It's really held things back across this part of New South Wales, and we can see a couple of stronger thunderstorms now beginning to get themselves going around the Coffs Harbour area. Now they're heading pretty quickly out towards the east, which means whatever thunderstorms do develop, until we get north of a line just south of Lismore here, kind of between Lismore and Grafton, about the Yamba area, thunderstorms are going to be moving from the west out to about the east, which means they're not going to be riding up the coastline. They're not going to be impacting too many people. So even less severe is the fact that these thunderstorms are going to be very hit or miss, and a lot of locations are going to completely miss out on this thunderstorm risk that we've been talking about for the whole week, which is a bit of an embarrassment as a forecast here. It's really been a bit of a letdown, some of these thunderstorms, and it's all been because of this cloud coverage that has streamed it through. I mean, that trough has really blown things apart, and it's really hammered home that, or hammered the risk of these severe thunderstorms that we were expecting today. I mean, I was expecting a high-end outbreak around the Coffs Harbour area, and I knew that this was going to become a little bit more uncertain as the week drew on, just considering the fact that more cloud coverage was showing onto the forecast. But the the amount of cloud coverage that we've seen today has been really disappointing, and it's a lot of it as well, really holding back some of these thunderstorms. And whilst we have had our fair share of strong thunderstorms, particularly towards the Narrabri area and around Manila, towards the north of Tamworth and around the Armidale area, we've definitely had some strong thunderstorm activity through here as expected. Along the New South Wales mid-north coast and then into the northeast, it's been very much lackluster. Now, we can see our temperatures are still rather warm just outside of the Lismore area, and this is going to be the place to watch over the next couple of hours. Good thunderstorms expected around Grafton, great thunderstorms expected north of Grafton, and once again, good to great thunderstorms are expected around the Lismore area. So those in this black outline here need to remain vigilant over the coming couple of hours. Very important that you monitor the radar and the satellite imagery closely, because severe thunderstorms are not just possible, but they are expected in this part of New South Wales. Southeast Queensland today is not a day to be worried about at all. It is a day, though, to keep an eye on the radar imagery and keep an eye on other forecasts as well, just to make sure that you are in the know. As with all thunderstorms, they're unpredictable until they begin to develop, so I'll have some live coverage on the Queensland situation later tonight, as long as we do see severe thunderstorms moving through, which right now, considering the New South Wales situation, is a bit of a coin toss. Now, I'm not saying release that big breath that you've been holding throughout the course of today. I'm not saying calm down and that it's all over and that today is a complete fizzer and a nothing burger, because it isn't. We're still having the risk of giant hailstones around the Grafton area, and very dangerous severe thunderstorms and supercells will carry over into southeastern Queensland later tonight if they do develop through New South Wales, and we will see some significant storm activity as a result in this part of Queensland, particularly through the Gold Coast hinterland and parts of the scenic rim. Plenty of lightning activity is expected, and this will also translate to a strong thunderstorm or two moving around the Brisbane area. So do not get complacent, but it is definitely a better picture than what we were talking about just a few hours ago, and a much better picture to what we were forecasting at the start of the week. This was shaping up to be a mean day about a week ago, if you can think back to some previous forecast updates, but right now, definitely things are a lot tamer than what I initially expected them to be. Again, I will keep close tabs on the situation, and I'll update you as things move through. Our Seabreeze line is beginning to move north now, and it is just towards the north of Coffs Harbour up towards Grafton, and by this video comes out, this Seabreeze line is likely to be between Grafton and Lismore, and we're likely seeing severe thunderstorms developing around here. So keep on top of the radar imagery and keep on top of the Facebook page as well. I'll have further updates, including live coverage if severe thunderstorms get very dangerous in or around the Queensland area. That's going to do it for me today for now, and I will have more updates throughout the day as I have hammered at home. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. A massive thank you to our channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. Could not run the show without them. As always, their support is massively, massively appreciated. But that'll do it for me this afternoon. I'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.